everybody, Tony D with another hot take, this time on yesterday's press conference with Trump. Now, a lot of people, they're getting a little antsy now. I knew this would happen, so I'm going to say again, calm down. It's okay. Look, the death press conference, if you want to call it that, where Trump and his doctors are talking about the expected deaths in the United States. As I've been saying, this crisis is going to get worse for at least a couple of more weeks. We're now at the 2-week mark, by the way. Today marks the day I've been cooped up for 2 weeks straight without really leaving the house. I did run a couple errands, but I was really careful and stayed in the car for the most part. I know I'm good. I'm about 99% sure I'm good at this point. So I'm going to try to stay that way and try to run out my food. You should do the same thing, especially if you've got good stores of food. Try to stay in. For God's sakes, don't run any stupid errands that you don't really need to run, and really think about that. And the reason being is because the peak is coming. And when we reach the peak, that means we're going to finally know approximately how many cases there are in the United States. And this is going to include the people over the next few weeks who went to Florida for spring break, ignored these warnings, gathered, there were 3 different weddings that got broken up in New Jersey because people insisted on having their wedding, even though this was going on. They just can't wait to get married. Oh, God forbid you don't get married and have a big party. You really should have not done that. I don't agree with the cops coming in and breaking it up, but I also don't agree with you getting health care if you're going to ignore quarantine. So, it's a tough balance to hit. I mean, according to law, we have to, fix your sorry butt if you get sick. But now you're asking for authoritarian measures, and now they're being imposed. So thanks a lot, idiots, for not listening to the quarantine. For those of you who did, good for you. Glad you're watching my videos. Glad you're all safe. Continue to be safe. Continue to try to stay in. Don't go to the store. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to. And if you do, for God's sakes, wear a mask, wear gloves. When you come home, disinfect everything you bring into the house. Disinfect the doorknobs. Disinfect everything. Take off your clothes, wash them, grab a shower, wash your hair. It can be in your hair. You're going to have to treat this like a movie. Like everything outside the doors are contamination. It's just the way you're going to have to treat it until probably for at least the next 2 weeks or so when things finally start to level off. And they will level off. You're going to see a lot of panic in the news. They're desperate. And it's really disgusting now to see the media exploit this crisis just to get at Trump. I mean, look, I've been arguing with people online about Trump for, years now. I didn't vote for Trump, okay? I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for the Libertarian candidate. So you cannot really call me a Trump supporter, but I am forced to defend him because the media is so ridiculous. I mean, you only have to watch the press conferences to watch the media ask ridiculous framing questions. They didn't ask this question, but this is the framing. How long have you been beating your wife? That's the kind of framing, the question, that's the way they're stated. And they're so painfully, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that the framing is that bad. It got so bad that in one of the press conferences, Trump stopped the reporter and said, "That's not what I said. You're taking it out of context. Read the whole quote." And she read the whole quote, and it was clear that it had a different meaning than the one she was implying. I mean, it's that bad. And even though she got called out by the president in the middle of this press conference, she still continued with her question, as framed as poorly and as badly as it was. And you can just see Trump is just, he's just so sick of dealing with it. And I talk to people online, and they have TDS. Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, it's very clear. They have drank this Kool-Aid of the media, hook, line, and sinker, that everything Trump says and does, they called him a sociopath in this Raw story. I mean, that was the headline. And, the internet reacts as sociopathic Trump compares his ratings to The Bachelor. That was, again, technically true. But what you have to understand is the press conference went on for 2.5 hours. He said lots of things. And to pick on that and to speak for the entirety of the internet, calling Trump, well, the entire internet thinks he's a sociopath. That's not true. That's not true, and there's no way you could prove it. No way you can prove it. That would be true on a site like Reddit, where I saw the headline. That would be true on many other sites. But you cannot make that statement definitively. And that's what these people are doing over and over again. And it's very frustrating and very annoying for people like myself who are independents and independent thinkers, and we see stuff that's clearly wrong. And no, don't worry about it. It's not wrong because it's Trump. Meanwhile, you got Joe Biden, who's being accused of groping a woman, getting Me Too'd. I'm not sure of the evidence. I'm not saying one way or another, but the guy is pretty creepy. He's done some things, let's be honest. I think the only question is why, would he go after an adult woman, really? And but he is being accused by a former staffer, so that's a pretty strong accusation. But you watch the media pundits, and they're carrying his water all day long. They don't want to ask any of the hard questions of him, and even the softball questions they're asking him, Biden can barely get his words out. He can barely get his words out, and they're treating him like, I don't know, like their grandpa, like, oh, that's okay. That's okay, Grandpa. You're going to be president. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to compare the treatment of Trump to the treatment of Biden. And Biden comes out every day and criticizes the president in sort of a vague, platitude kind of way. That is handling of the crisis. Let me explain something to you who are still yelling at me on the internet. Not the rest of you people who obviously like me. I'm talking about people who are arguing with me over and over again. In one poll, Trump now polls higher in trustworthiness than the actual media. All right, let that sink in for a minute. And so we have people now whose argument all along has been, well, Trump didn't win the popular vote, therefore he's an illegitimate president. First, I will explain yet again, the Electoral College is necessary. If you hold that view, it's a very short-sighted view, because the wheel will turn, and guess what? You're not going to have the popular vote anymore, and then what are you going to say? Oh, you're going to say, oh, well, we should have never gotten rid of the Electoral College. Oh, God. The wheel will turn. And right now, you could say, well, if the Democrats just push straight up numbers and get every person in the United States to vote, yes, they'll win. But there is something known as the tyranny of the majority, as Ben Franklin put it, and that is two wolves and a sheep voting what's for dinner. You would have a situation in which all our major cities would run presidential campaigns. You would get a president who would be Democrat for a while, and they would run the president like the major cities are run. Now, look at our major cities as they currently stand and tell me that you want to see the whole country run like, let's say New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles. I don't think you want that. Even people who support Democrats, I don't think they want the entire country being run like that. And let's be honest, you can't run the country like an urbanite in New York. They're trying to push Governor Cuomo as a Democratic alternative to Biden. He doesn't want to run, and I don't blame him. He's a solid New Yorker, and certainly he can win in New York State. But can a guy like him win nationally? He knows that would be really, really tough. It would be a very tough call for him. Maybe down the road if he broadens his appeal a little bit. But, it's very different running for the president of the entire country, because you should and you do have to cater to everyone in the country, not just the urban elites. If you said, okay, we're just going to do urban elites now, if we're just going to do the majority, you would only have campaigning in New York, Chicago, Texas, and Los Angeles. And that would be about it. You would never see anyone go to New Hampshire or Iowa or Idaho or any of these other states. Wouldn't be enough people. Wouldn't be worth it. Now, do you think that's fair that those people out in the sticks don't get representation in a presidential election, that their vote wouldn't matter? Some Democrats would say, yeah, F them, the Bible-thumping, gun-toting idiots. Well, F you, because those people are part of this country, and that's the system we have. It's a balance. It's a balance. It's a state system. I'll tell you what would have helped you is if you helped California split up into 6 states, which was on the ballot, but unfortunately failed. I am all for splitting up California. It's too big to manage. They have a lot of problems. Splitting the state up into 6 different states would make the smaller units easier to manage. And you'd have more states, you'd have more representatives in terms of the electoral votes. The electoral map would change. You should certainly be supporting statehood for Washington, D.C. That's taxation without representation, as far as I'm concerned. They should certainly have their own senator and whatnot. You should support statehood or cut them loose for Puerto Rico. I don't hear that as an issue for Democrats. So just tap the brakes. Taps the brake. Ugh. Tap the brakes, people who want to get rid of the Electoral College. You don't know what you're talking about. God, I'm so revved up for this. But anyhow, what I started to talk about was, the darkness before the light kind of press conference this was. And it is going to get bad, and people are going to lose their damn minds. So don't be one of those people. Understand that now we're at the 2 weeks. Now we could just start seeing some of the mitigation. We're probably not going to see much of it, and the rates in general are still going to go up, because understand that in parts of the country, I know my friend CB in Florida, nobody was doing anything at this point. I was telling CB about what was going on up here. I got laid off and blah, blah, blah. She's like, everybody's still going out. That's going to still be a few more days. We're talking probably the end of the week until it really hit home for most people, even here. I mean, they shut down a bunch of places here 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Sorry, 2 weeks ago. I still haven't got my unemployment, by the way. Can't get through. So that's another issue. But look, things are going to start to finally level off in a couple of weeks. Maybe we could all start doing something. In the meantime, just try not to spend any money. Try to eat the food you have. Try not to go anywhere. And try to entertain yourself. Do all those things you always said you were going to do and never had time for. Fix stuff around the house. Clean up your place. Clean the house. That's a good thing to do. You never know if you track something in that may have some of the germs on it. Because keep in mind that this has been known to live on surfaces for quite a long time. So feel free to re-clean your house, even if you've been cooped up a while. But if you've been going in and out, it wouldn't hurt to clean things up. And, make plans for the future, because there will be a future. Plant a garden. Look to figure out about at what point you'll need to go out, that you'll need to go get some food or whatever. And in the meantime, don't panic. Look, if you want to get information, you got to get on the internet. You got to watch the press conferences yourself, and you got to watch analysis, not by the big corporate media types. Even Fox News. Now, Fox News in this day and age is actually they've got a little bit of merit, not much, but some. I mean, Tucker Carlson does a good rant once in a while, but you really got to dig down and do your own research. Now you have the time. Get on the internet, learn things, and try to find reliable sources. It's tough. You know, you got to be a reporter. You need two sources, two real separate sources to back these things. That's what journalists are supposed to do. They're supposed to find two sources that confirms what they heard. So be a reporter. You got nothing else to do.